Good morning. When this program debuted, we made a commitment to you that we would focus our attention as best we could on matters in the Idaho legislature that either advance or threaten our shared values, highlighting the work of the Citizens Alliance of Idaho pledge signers and bringing you actionable tasks that keep you engaged in the process, and understanding, even if just a little bit better, what is happening in the Boise Statehouse. I and the team here take this role very seriously. Going on the air daily to speak directly to you about serious matters is a responsibility that we do not take lightly. While we may have fun every once in a while, the fact of the matter remains. Idaho Signal was created to cut through the noise, the misdirections, and the distractions that the mainstream media and the powers that be would otherwise have us focus on. We refuse to take the bait. We are focused on the signal. Over this current week, we have seen what we consider to be a distraction that threatens to derail and overshadow the tremendous efforts that many hardworking conservative lawmakers have been focused on for the past 3 months of this session. It has been very tempting as a live daily news program to cover this national news story, especially since it emanated from our own backyard. The entire Idaho Signal team live and work in the Coeur d'Alene area, and when this news broke, we have taken a very, very great interest in the facts that are slowly emerging. Because there was so little physical evidence given to the public at the time that this news broke, we waited to comment on the issue. All that was presented were stories, second-hand stories, third-hand stories, with details that seemed to be changing by the hour. In the era of Jesse Smollett, Bubba Wallace, the Covington kids, and other stories of alleged racism that wind up being hoaxes, misunderstandings, or complete fabrications by the media, forgive us for not kneeling in shame as soon as the media told us we should. If that upsets you, I refer you back to the aforementioned examples of the boy who cried wolf. As more information is released, including the recorded phone call of the initial complaint to law enforcement, we continued to wait for more details. Even now, the only recorded evidence of offensive racial remarks seemed to come from the complainant himself, who called many in our community hillbilly white trash and rednecks who are unwelcoming to people of color. We sincerely hope video or other identifying evidence of this alleged offense surfaces so that we know exactly who to direct our outrage at. Because until that happens, the outrage and this charge of racism seems to simply and squarely be fixated on Coeur d'Alene and Idaho at large. A charge that is warrantless, offensive, and potentially detrimental to the many small businesses that make up Coeur d'Alene and Kootenai County. If these jerks are identified and found to be residents of CDA or Idaho, they deserve to be shamed for their despicable behavior. They are not an accurate representation of who the people of our community are. If they are discovered to be from out of state, since many nighttime guests in downtown Coeur d'Alene regularly come in from Washington, trust me, I live here, then perhaps we can blame Washington for fostering a culture of racial animus and undue prejudice. Until then, any remarks or resolutions made that disparage our community will be rejected by this program. Idaho Signal is committed to fair and equal treatment under the law, under the Idaho and U.S. constitutions, for all people, regardless of their race, sex, or status. On a personal note, my generation, so-called Gen X, is the first generation in this country that grew up with Martin Luther King Jr.'s statement on color and character from an early age. We are to judge each other not by the color of our skin, but by the content of our character. It is our 11th commandment. To our generation, racism, overt, bigoted injustices was something we only read about in history books. Unfortunately, race hustlers and power-hungry elites that can never let a crisis go to waste. Keep searching for ways to keep racism alive. If you want racism to disappear, stop talking about it. That is something that we are going to do right now. This will be our final word on the matter. Idaho Signal starts now.
The first duty of government is to protect our rights.
It's our job to maintain the proper role of government in what we were tasked to do.
In the Idaho Constitution, Article 1, Section 1, we have a right to life, we have a right to defend life.
This legislation is centered on meeting the needs of Idaho families.
And we have no way to maintain control over the spending of this program, and it will be a disaster for this state long term.
But we have a whole gamut of kids whose parents would like to do something for them and they cannot.
The courts have long held that our ability to transfer title on real property benefits society as a whole.
This is simply about putting it out of reach of young, innocent, vulnerable children and making our libraries and schools a safe place for them to go.
And I am increasingly frustrated that we cannot stop ourselves from drinking at the public trough.
He's sounding the alarm. He's saying if we don't address these issues, we potentially might have greater problems moving forward.
I feel like we're back to an unappointed board that gets to decide who is essential and who is non-essential.
If I was looking at a business and I was looking at these figures, there would be heads rolling because this is unsustainable.
We're supposed to be bottom-up government. We're supposed to be representing my citizens' ideas and your citizens' ideas, and we're supposed to be discussing them and debating them to come to a conclusion.
And for me, it's about a couple things. It's about food security, it's about national security, and it's about preserving American exceptionalism.
The First Amendment and our freedom of religion, freedom of speech are our first liberties. They are so important. We don't have the rest without them.
Okay, good morning, everybody. March 29, 2024. Matt Edwards here. Idaho Signal is on the air, and we are as focused as can be. Don't get me wrong. Right now on the House floor, they are live. They just finished voting on House Bill 757. This is an appropriations bill. This is a budget for the public schools facilities division. So it looks like this vote has gone through, has sailed on by, and we will keep an eye on what they're doing. They are going through a lot of appropriations, which is these additional budget bills that will be considered throughout the day here in the House. The Senate, let's leave this shot up. Yeah, let's leave this shot up and see which one they jump to. When the Senate has adjourned. They're done for the day. In fact, they're done on Monday as well. They've announced that they will be back on Tuesday. So we will be back on the air next week to continue see what's going on in the House and Senate. But as the House moves forward in their day, it looks like we have another bill coming up. I want to be able to dip in here live when there is a good bill to pay attention to. So we'll keep an eye on this. This is House Bill 646 apparently, and I'm looking here on my list to see what it is. I don't see it. We'll figure it out. It's a trailer bill for something, so we'll see. Oh no, it says 758. So anyway, let's get back. It's a trailer bill for 646. So it is 758. It's appropriations to the state controller's office. But some good news. Yesterday, the governor signed the bill that would bar public money from being used on being used in sex change operations. This is something that that was hotly debated. We followed it closely as it made its way through the House and Senate, but the governor did sign it. It is law. So Medicaid dollars, public dollars in healthcare cannot be used for sex change operations for the foreseeable future here in Idaho. So that's great news. I had this list up before where we were following all of the bills that were that were killed or that were just simply sitting around not being paid attention to, and two of those bills came up for a hearing this morning. So I can only surmise that this audience, our signal callers out there, that you contacted the committee and said, hey, we want to hear these bills. And so this morning, two bills in particular in the Senate State Affairs Committee, House Bill 421, which kind of was floating by, and it was one of those bills that it deals with the definitions in our statute. It deals with the definitions in our statute on sex and gender, and so this bill was presented. We've got some clips lined up to go through that, but following that was House Bill 538, which dealt with compelled speech. And so that bill was also heard, and we have clips from that. So let's first dive into House Bill 421. Again, this was a bill that simply went and looked at the legislation. That looked at the statute to see what the definitions were for male, female, for man, woman, and that sort of thing. And I believe Julian Young was the one that presented it in the House. And her arguments, which we saw once or twice on this program, was that there didn't seem to be there wasn't consistency across the board. So this we wanted to bring consistency with the definitions of what male and female are, so that moving forward, anytime future legislation addresses and uses the word male or female or man or woman, that we clearly know what everybody's talking about, because surprise, surprise, we're living in an age now where people are confused as to what a man is and what a woman is. And we have some of that. We have some of those receipts coming up. So let's jump right into it, into the public comment portion of the hearing, because these were fascinating. So first up here we have is Grace over at the Idaho Family Policy Center. She came in to testify on behalf of in favor of the bill, and let's listen to her comments on why this bill is so important.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, good morning. My name is Grace Howitt, and I serve as a policy assistant for Idaho Family Policy Center. We support House Bill 421, and we thank the sponsors for bringing this bill forward. Unfortunately, progressives in our society are set on deconstructing the distinctions between males and females, and they're waging a war on the long-standing legal meanings of these terms. This is a problem because without clear definitions of male and female, sex-based protections for women-only sports and women-only domestic violence shelters become meaningless. Maintaining separate bathrooms, locker rooms, and changing areas for biological males and biological females becomes impossible. And implementing reasonable sex-based workplace distinctions, for instance, policies that require male and female employees to wear sex-appropriate work uniforms, becomes legally problematic. Thankfully, House Bill 421 creates policy-neutral and rock-solid statutory definitions for sex, gender, mother, father, and other sex-based terms that would be applied consistently throughout state code. Don't let the radical left erase important sex distinctions in our state law.
Yeah, don't refer to somebody as radical, please.
Okay, noted. Please vote to send House Bill 421 to the floor with a due pass recommendation.
Thank you. Let's go with Mary Rucht.
Got to protect everybody's feelings. No, they run a tight ship there. Guthrie is equally as I guess you could say he's fairly equal when it comes to making sure that people don't use those accurate terms. Anyway, fantastic work there by Grace. We applaud her and that organization over there, where they're definitely friends of the program. Okay. Now, of course, this bill has many detractors, and seeing as how the State House is based in Boise, you're going to find a lot of those detractors living in town there. And the head of the ringleader of all of this is the head of the ACLU here in Idaho, a spokesperson for the ACLU in Idaho. And so let's, if we have her clip, let's watch her statement.
Welcome to committee.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. Good morning, members of the committee. I'm Julianne Donnelly-Zool, and I'm here with the ACLU of Idaho, also in firm opposition to this bill. You'll be hearing from a number of people about personal experience. I'm going to focus on a few legal objections. First, declaring that there is no such thing as gender does not erase Idaho's obligation to comply with the 100+ statutes that are federal forbidding sex discrimination and complying with the Supreme Court decision, Bostock versus Clayton County. Bostock states that discrimination based on gender identity and sexual orientation is discrimination because of sex. It is impossible, this is a quote from the opinion, to discriminate against a person for being homosexual or transgender without discriminating against that individual based on sex. I included in my written testimony a list of every federal statute that bars sex discrimination that was compiled by Supreme Court Justice Samuel Alito. It's over 100 federal statutes. We cannot pretend that those don't exist and don't apply by saying gender does not exist, only sex. Second, this bill is a violation of the single subject rule of the Idaho State Constitution, Article 3, Section 16. You heard a few minutes ago all the various sections of code that are now going to be redirected to the definition as rewritten in this bill. It's hundreds of pieces of code. That also applies to rules and policies. Last, I want to speak briefly about a First Amendment concern. And we speak a lot in this space about government overreach and wanting to avoid it. This is a value deeply, deeply held in this House, in the State House. Reaching not just to someone's speech, but to their very sense of self, their very core of identity and consciousness, I'm aware, I'll wrap up quickly, is clearly a First Amendment violation and clearly government overreach. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony.
I can't take
Crystal
it. I
Ivy.
can't take it. I can't take it. Like we're all they're doing is defining in real terms what all these words mean. To sit there and say, oh, we're touching upon so many different factors. Well, when you're dealing with the definition of words and you're trying to make sure that everything is consistent across the board, what is a man? What is a woman? Male, female? Like these are facts. I'm not going to be deterred, and I'm not going to be persuaded, and I'm not going to be put under a magical spell that says I need to re-educate under your parameters of some sort of mystic, like this idea that we need to abandon science and abandon the truth to fit some sort of sick narrative that you people are pursuing. It's incredible. It's absolutely incredible. And to show you how warped we are, this is a sitting legislator. We're going to show you this clip. This is a sitting senator with a question for the bill sponsor on the Senate here. Senator Ben Adams was the one who's presenting this bill. Senator Wintrow had this question. This is an elected official.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just one question, Senator. And it's just kind of basic, but as I'm walking around everyday life, how do I tell somebody's a man or a woman, or a male or female, excuse me, because we don't have that one defined. How do you know with certainty?
Senator Adams.
Mr. Chairman, I know it's not common to ask a question when you get asked a question, but I don't know how Senator Wintrow would be able to interpret. I think for the average Idahoan, it's pretty clear.
You good, Senator Wintrow?
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair and Senator Adams. Maybe I should just ask you, how do you know? Like, I'm walking around, people look very different. Like, how do I ascertain somebody is male or female?
That's asking for a lot of latitude with your, you don't have to answer that if you don't want, Senator.
I don't think I'm going to answer that.
I don't see any other questions. Committee, Senate Bill or House Bill 421
Let's take a quick break.
It's our job to maintain the proper role of government and what we were tasked to do.
The dictionary defines a pledge as something that you give as a sign that you'll keep a promise. As Idahoans, that's what we're looking for in our elected leaders. A sign that they'll keep their word. Talk is cheap, and so are political promises, hidden agendas, and special interests. This is why we created the Citizens Alliance of Idaho Pledge, affirming the values Idahoans have been living by for over 100 years, inspired by the only two documents everyone has agreed to live by. So when an Idaho legislator signs our pledge, inviting voters to publicly hold them accountable, that's what we call political integrity. The pledge restores trust and honesty between voters and their legislators. It means protecting our shared values and ensuring your voice is heard in Boise. And that is priceless. Thank your legislator for having the political courage to sign the Citizens Alliance of Idaho Pledge. And if they haven't, it's time to ask why.
From there, we're sending $20 million from CTE, and then the rest of that will be forthcoming in another bill. With that, Mr. Speaker, I'd ask for your green light. I do believe this is a great budget. JFAC cut it back pretty significantly from the agency request, but I do believe that we funded the department to the level that we thought was appropriate and necessary for them to support our schools.
Thank you, gentlemen. For the motions, for debate on the motion. Hearing none, hearing no negative debate, debate is closed. Questions to House Bill 762 pass the House. Clerk will lock the machine. Members will cast their votes. Has every member voted? Cannon. Has members change their vote? Clerk will lock the machine, record the roll. 47 ayes, 20 nay, 3 absent excused. Majority haven't voted in favor of House Bill 762. House Bill 762 is passed the House. Correction to title.
No correction to title.
Hearing none, title is approved. Bill will be transferred to Senate. Jump 22.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Okay, so the House there passing some more appropriation bills, or a few more no votes on that one than the last one we were paying attention to. And we'll continue to do so. Apologies for going to hard break there. We had a major hit on our signal on the end over here. So, but it looks like we're back in business and ready to get going. Okay, so some commentary on that last clip. Can we throw that up on the side just next to me? Because I wanted to. This was Melissa Wintrow asking Senator Ben Adams here. If she's walking around town, how does she know that someone is a man or a woman? Can you believe that? I mean, just take a step back here. What can we hear some of this exchange again?
Common to act.
Certainty.
Senator Adams.
How do I tell somebody's a man or a woman, or a male or female, excuse me, because we don't have that one defined. How do you know with certainty?
How do you
Senator
know?
Adams.
And then she sits back. I mean, is this an SNL sketch? I mean, are we in some sort of simulation?
I know it's not common to ask.
This is incredible, folks. This is incredible. This is what is happening at our state level. We have people sitting in positions of power like this who are saying, how do we know? And what they're doing is they're trying to make you feel like you're crazy, right? They're trying to make us feel like we're the crazy ones, because they do it with such a veil of calmness and reason. It's incredible, the deception, and it's incredible. It's absolutely incredible to watch this in real time. Okay. We're going to watch Melissa Wintrow even dive more into this madness in our next, when we cover the next bill that they went through. But let's bring in some sanity here. Senator Ben Taves is one of the few people on this committee that that has the ability to sit there with actual reason and have truth on his side and be on the side of truth, rather, to bring some clarity to the issue here. So let's listen to Senator Taves.
And I'm going to stand by my previous remarks that this is being made into something it's not. I'm going to read what we're changing, okay? So I'm actually going to refer to the bill on page 3, line 21. Our current definition of sex reads, and I'm believing that a lot of the people that are against this bill would disagree with the current definition, which is why I say this is likely a clarifying bill and is likely creating a bright line. So sex, it says, our current law says, means the immutable biological and physiological characteristics, specifically the chromosomes and internal and external reproductive anatomy, genetically determined at conception and generally recognizable at birth, that define an individual as male or female. So we're already, in our current code, we're already saying there's 2, male or female, and we're already referring to chromosomes. And what I see this bill doing is just making it even more clear. But I'm guessing that the same people that are upset about this bill would be upset about our current definition. So from my point of view, this is just creating a clarity for the court system.
There we go. There we go. Once again, we have, if you look at current code, you should already be in uproar about this. This is just literally taking the definitions and securing them and making sure they are consistent across the board for many different reasons. I mean, he mentioned the court systems. I mean, the courts, when they're interpreting justice, when they're delivering justice, they need to look at the statute to see what it is they need to rule on. So this stuff is extremely important. Okay, and it reminds me of the going back to the cannibalism bill when we were listening to the debate on cannibalism, and Heather Scott had said that the only thing that the bill did, her cannibalism bill, was add to the already existing law against cannibalism. And I remember it was Lori McCann who stood up and said, well, what about that? You know, there's a movement, or not a movement, but there are people who when they give birth, when women give birth, they take the placenta and they consume it. By putting it into pills or putting it into a powder form and then consuming that. She's like, so wouldn't that wouldn't that fall under this bill? Oh, look at that. Here she is. And so, the fact that she brings that up is interesting, in respect to consuming, human flesh. So it's a question that is potentially valid to ask. But if that's happening, that's would potentially already be illegal in Idaho because it's already on the statute that you're not allowed to, or it's a crime to knowingly consume human flesh. So anyway, these are the types of things that, like, you've got people sitting in the law who don't know every statute, and they're not doing their due diligence by looking at what is actually being debated. They'd rather just sit back and fight their activism fight. Anyway, okay, sorry for the digression there, but I find it fascinating. Okay, we are going to let's see. The House is still going through their bills, but we want to jump to the next bill. Did we have another clip? We didn't have another clip on this one, right? Yeah, we're good. Okay, so the next bill in secession here. Let's wrap up 421. It passed the committee, so it will be heading to the Senate floor for debate there and hopefully passage, because again, that bill sets the stage for many other things across the board. And one of them being this next one, which is House Bill 538. We've put out a call. This is a huge First Amendment issue. This would prevent the government from compelling you to basically lie or to speak things or believe things that go against your conscience. And so let's see. How did we have this up first? We were going to show. I believe. Was it? It wasn't Ben Adams. It was Chris Trakel was going to present this, and but I think during. He had a great close. Okay, so let's go back to then Melissa Wintrow then, because I want to stay on Melissa Wintrow. Her pushback on this bill of compelling people to use somebody's preferred title or somebody's preferred pronoun. And again, this is the government will force teachers, law enforcement, whoever works for the government, that when somebody tells you their title or their pronoun, you must use that. And if you don't, you could be reprimanded. And this bill is simply saying the government cannot compel you to do those things. Let's listen to Melissa Wintrow. We might have to stop once or twice through this and break down what she's saying, but it's incredible. So let's listen to Melissa Wintrow here.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Senator Schaaf. I appreciate your background in civil rights, because that's what I was thinking last night when I was reading the bill. Is we attended a respectful workplace policy training as legislators at the beginning of the session, and we talked about respectful workplace. We talked about discrimination. We talked about all those things. So that's what I was kind of struck by this bill, in that it is incentivizing people to act in a way that to misgender intentionally and not be, and basically be rewarded and to be allowed to do it. That's my biggest concern. Like we would allow a police officer or a school.
We got to pause here. This bill is incentivizing people to misgender or to listen to this attitude here. This bill is simply saying the government cannot force you to do things. But here she is in her very calm and very deceptive ways telling you this bill is going to incentivize people to be, in her words, to be rude and to lash out or to do things that would offend other people. Where are we? I mean, we're through the looking glass, people. When we have people who are sitting in positions of power, who are manipulating everything in order to satisfy some crazy, weird, sick, I don't know, Marxism. I don't know what you want to call it, but it's insane. Let's continue on here.
Teacher or any state employee, any government person to intentionally use a title that somebody didn't want. I mean, I can't fathom that, because it's not really about you have to believe one way or another. It's just, this is the way I want to be addressed, right? I just want to be addressed a certain way. And when I'm in this building, I expect to be addressed as senator. I've earned it.
Oh,
I think that's respectful.
That reminds me of, what was it? Senator Barbara Boxer from years ago talking to a general when the general addressed her as ma'am. And she said something like, I am senator to you. I am a senator. I've earned it. You've earned it? Going around gathering tons of money to run for office. You've earned it. You've earned it. No humility here. No humility on the part of Miss Senator Wintrow here. You've earned it. She's earned the title senator. It's a rank. Continue.
Now, there's no law protecting it, as nor should be. But I got to share one little anecdote with, again, this is why I'm just so
back that up.
I don't understand this bill.
Let's back that up. There shouldn't be a law? Can we hear that again?
Addressed, right? I just want to be addressed a certain way. And when I'm in this building, I expect to be addressed as senator. I've earned it. And I think that's respectful. Now, there's no law protecting it, as nor should be.
Okay.
But I got.
So let's break that down. There's no law that says we have to call her senator. nor should there be. But she's sitting there advocating that there should be a way to make sure that government employees use the title that that person wants used. So she's a total, am I allowed to say it, hypocrite? Do these people even pay attention to what they're saying? I mean, I certainly stumble over things all the time, but I can identify it. But she's not apologizing. She going to apologize for this after we've highlighted it? I mean, am I wrong here? Am I wrong here, guys? No. Okay. So she's literally just advocated for forcing people to use the title that other people want. Yet she just said, I want people to call me senator. There shouldn't be a law about that. Okay, continue.
To share one little anecdote with, again, this is why I'm just so I don't understand this bill. I teach a class. Well, I'm not teaching this year, but typically when I introduce, we start the class, we introduce each other, people share things about themselves, and I usually start to role model, and I say, my name is Melissa, I use she and her pronouns, so people understand who I am. And other people fall in line or not. But that's my way of just saying, how do you want me to address you? Who are you? And how do you want me to do that in a respectful way? Do I make mistakes sometimes? Yeah. Because I was socialized in the same world you were, that there's supposed to be only two ways to think about this. And is it uncomfortable? Yeah. Because I was trained that way for my whole lifetime. But can I unlearn it? Yes. And people are patient with me when I say, I am so sorry. I got that next time. No problem.
Wow.
It's no skin off my nose.
Okay. Is this there's still more. Okay. Did you just hear what she said? She wants us to unlearn. Unlearn. Re-education. We are living in a new world. They want all of the things that are the foundation of human society, of Western civilization and Eastern civilization, Northern, Southern, where I can easily recognize who is a man and who is a woman. Remember, this is the same person who in the last bill was saying, how do you know someone's male or female? I mean, how do you really know? She doesn't belong in the halls of Boise, in the Statehouse. She belongs in the back of a coffee shop with all the other people who are wondering, why are we here? You know, if she wants to teach a philosophy class, then by all means, let's sit around and talk philosophy. Let's sit around, but she's being asked to vote on these bills. This is incredible, remarkable. And we've already pointed out the hypocrisy in here so far. But she is advocating for us to re-educate society under things that have been the basic understanding, science. Wow, this is incredible, folks. And nobody says these things. You know, when we started this program, I said this is not going to be a show where I give off my personal opinion on things. But man, who gets to push back on this stuff? I mean, God bless some of these folks on this committee that sometimes are able to do these things. And, and I have the luxury of being able to listen to these words over and over again and break them down. But boy, man, she is a master of manipulation and deception. Let's close out her remarks and we'll move on here.
Yes. And people are patient with me when I say, I am so sorry. I got that next time. No problem. It's no skin off my nose. I just apologize and go on. And I think to institutionalize in law something that incentivizes government employees to protect them, to misgender and disrespect people, that is not the government that I think we are. And I'll be voting no.
Good riddance. Okay, so I mean, unbelievable. So she's the I don't know who's the ringleader of all this stuff in this state. Who's the ringleader? Is it the ACLU? Is it Wintro? I mean, it's all of them together, And then you've got all these like spineless people on the other side of the aisle who just go along with it. some of them ran. Some of them are leftists who run as Republicans and then get up there and vote with vote with the Democrats on these issues. So there's something going on. There's something going on, and it's completely an attack on normal everyday Idaho folks and the grassroots. Okay, we have a comment here from somebody who showed up. Should we do that first or do the Traco close? I want to get into this ACLU thing, but maybe we need to take a break and come back and do that. So can we do a little? Let's do a little sanity check and listen to Chris Traco close out and do his magic here, because we need some good vibes again. So let's listen to Senator Traco on this matter. Boy, I'm a mess today.
Sorry about that. My leg fell asleep. I apologize. I don't think I introduced myself when I came in, for the record, so just to make sure I get it done, Senator Chris Traco, District 11. I'd like to bring up some of the issues that were brought up and talked about. I find it funny that a lot of the testimony we hear today, they talk about how they want rights, and particularly since the transgender group was brought up here, and I don't like anyways, the transgender group was brought up and how they have rights and they need to be protected, but at the same time, they want you to ignore everybody else's rights, is what they want to do. So by saying, for example, we hear from the ACLU, or sorry, not the ACLU, we heard from several people talk about respectful terminology and stuff like that. Well, I look at all of you that are politicians. How many of us are disrespected every day by email comments, words that are sent to us? So do we get to start limiting that? Do we get to take these arguments to that, and they can no longer say political speech to us, harmful, evil things to us? No, of course not, because they have freedom of speech. But at the same time, we do not legislate respect. Respect is something that is earned, not something that can be legislated. So a title is a term of respect. Nobody in here is forced to call me senator. They can call me whatever they want, and a matter of fact, they do call me whatever they want. I can't turn around here and demand that I be called Lord Supreme, Master of all. All right? That would be ridiculous. That would be disrespectful to everybody else that doesn't believe that. But at the same time, to force me to say that to somebody is disrespectful to me. Respect is a two-way street, and we cannot legislate respect. SCOTUS has ruled, SCOTUS, for those of you who don't know that aren't military, Supreme Court of the United States, has ruled, well, I'm just going to read it. The United States Supreme Court clearly holds that compelled speech offends the Constitution. Growing up in school, I took debate class, and one thing that stuck with me very much so in debate class is what a teacher said to me. He goes, "We don't have laws to protect speech that we like. We have laws to protect speech we disagree with. You don't need laws to protect things that people get along with and protect. You need laws to protect things that somebody might say that might be different from somebody else's opinion or political view. This creates conversation, this creates debate, this creates arguments, and it creates the advancement of education, understanding, so on and so forth. If we can't disagree on an issue and we're all yes men, we don't get anything across. This bill is a bully. Let me talk to you about being a bully. Somebody, going by their religious experience, completely bullied by those that called themselves them, they, because they would not conform to it. And they were bullied out to the point that I had to remove them from school. Bullying is on both sides. This bill is not a bullying. This bill is to protect freedom of speech. You cannot compel an individual to say what you want them to say, especially us as the government. And the pronoun terms have been deemed political by both sides, the left and the right. use these as
Okay.
political terms, and it has become political.
Senator Chris
Schools in
Trakel with some
Idaho
excellent points there, and he goes on for several minutes here. We don't have time to watch the entire thing, but really bringing it home to smashing down some of these arguments. This is a free speech bill. This is a free speech bill, and the madness that keeps being brought up by the left is insane. To kind of show you where their hearts and minds are at. There was somebody that came in that spoke against the bill, and let's listen to this gentleman's remarks. I believe his name was Dylan, and we're gonna play this thing in full because right at the tail end here, he kind of goes off the rails a little bit. I mean, a lot. Really offensive. Let's listen to this clip.
Welcome back.
Thank you. Chairman, chair people, those are titles. Members of the committee, that's a noun. These are parts of speech. I'm Dylan Goldade. I'm from District 16. I'm representing myself, and I would like to put forward my strong opposition towards House Bill 538. I just want to read a quick thing. I'm pulling it up. I've heard the use of preferred pronouns be described like using magic words that instantly makes the person that you're using them with feel recognized and respected. And so I would say, if you had a chance to show compassion to someone simply by changing one word of how you already speak, pronouns aren't new, they're words, wouldn't you do it? So please oppose this bill. Please vote no, or if it makes you more comfortable, please put forward a motion to hold this bill indefinitely. I'd like to use the remainder of my time to respond to the Pacific Justice Institute and the Idaho Family Policy Center, who are both in favor of this bill.
Could you maybe just speak to the legislation rather than refute previous testimony?
Sure. So using religious arguments in this building seems antithetical to the foundation of the United States of America. And if I may, I witnessed something on March 14th when Representative Hill was at first introducing this bill on the floor, and something happened that I could only describe as divine intervention. So
If you're going where I think you're going, you are out of line.
I'm out of line?
Well, yeah, absolutely you're out of
Okay.
line because I know where you're going, and
That's it? That's all I had to say?
That's something that
That's
we're
it?
all
That's
we're all
my-
hoping for his well-being, and that for you to attack that is out of line. So please take your seat, Jenna Damron.
Please don't attack my friends. Thank you.
Incredible. So for those who don't know, what he was talking about there on March 14th, which I happened to be in the building at that time down in Boise, Representative Hill, during a floor session, had a medical issue, and it caused him it caused the whole house to go to recess and medical attention given to Hill. He's fine now, but it turned out to be something minor, either dehydration or low blood sugar or something to that effect. But to use that was pretty offensive. And these are the folks, these are the people who have zero respect. They are calling for respect, yet they use this type of language, they use this type of rhetoric. Way over the top, way over the line. And I want to expose a little bit of something here, because this guy, I think Chris Trakel, to back up a second, Senator Trakel had mentioned that a lot of the ACLU people were showing up to testify, and then he walked that back a little bit. But we know that when the ACLU spokesperson got up and spoke, she did say that she knows a lot of what the people up here were going to testify to. She knew what they were going to testify. And the reason why she knew this is because the ACLU likes to hold Zoom calls where they coordinate with each other on talking points and which bills are going to go after. And so we have some of that footage. We have footage of this particular guy here, Dylan, and in a Zoom call with other ACLU members coordinating on how to combat these things. So let's look at some of that.
I hate it when I came into one of the committees on the House side and Skog was there trying to be polite to me to sign up and all. I'm like, you ass. Well, I had another word, but I didn't want to use it.
Save it, Skog, save it. It's not going to work.
I don't know what he thought he was trying to do. It's like he's so transparent. It's like, although I did get reprimanded twice during my testimony because I used language that was
so impugning.
Impugn the character of it. And it's like, wait a minute, you guys wrote the words. Shouldn't you at least stand behind them when I'm upset with them? Good God. All right, so
we see them using that as a way to kind of silence testifiers, and we don't often see that on the Senate side. We see a lot less of it, and so we know that they're using that as a tactic on the House side. It's really frustrating because a lot of times when they say that stuff, all we're doing is talking about the harm that these bills will have.
Judy's asking about calling Nichols. Ruby was also calling Nichols, right? Or no, wait, you were. Alexa was.
I called Nichols. I could only leave the message. There was no answer.
Right.
Yeah, and I'd say Ruby's response in the chat, Judy, is spot on. Senator Nichols is hands down one of the most transphobic and anti-LGBTQ senators we have. So she's not going to be receptive to this message, but if you are her constituent, she deserves to hear from you and deserves to hear that her constituents want her to vote no on this bill. And so I would say, go ahead and call her, leave her a message. There's not a chance you're going to be on the phone with her and having her say something nasty to you. So I'd say definitely leave her a message.
Yes, leave a message where you say guns instead of healthcare the whole time at the very end. Oh, sorry, I meant healthcare. Anyway. My mistake.
Tammy Nichols likes to say stuff like, oh, the kids are just too busy transgendering. And I'm like, you don't even understand this on a very basic conceptual level, at all.
I wonder if she does understand and she does it to be insulting.
Possibly. Maybe I'm giving her too much credit.
Yeah, the only way to be accepted by your peers these days is to trans yourself. It's crazy the times we live in.
So that's the ACLU for you. That's what they like to sit around and discuss. They sit there and do all this stuff behind closed doors, and they rally people to show up. And I mean, what was that? With that one person at the bottom who talked about how Representative Skog is kind to him, him, whatever. I don't know what this person goes by. It's clearly a man wearing a lot of women outfits here, but they say, when they arrive in the committee room, how kind they are when they greet them, and he looks at it and goes, these people, and that's why when I'm sitting here talking about them, they don't deserve any respect. Look at them. This is ridiculous. It's ridiculous. So that's what we're dealing with, folks. These are the folks pulling the strings in Idaho, making all of the weak, spineless folks on the other side of the aisle, on the other side of the Democrat aisle, join in. And I'm not going to take it anymore. We're not going to take it anymore. You have to know what's going on. We have to know what's going on. And we need people. We need fighters. We need fighters to get into office. This election is so important coming up. This election is so important coming up. Because we need fighters who are going to fight for common sense, who are going to fight for our values and saving our children. It's incredible. All right, folks. Do we have any other clips you want to get to? Oh, there was an election bill that went through this morning about ballot harvesting, and that passed committee, so that's good. That was in the Senate State Affairs, so that'll go down to the House floor to be, I'm sorry, the Senate floor to be debated. There's Phil McGrain presenting it. We don't have time to listen to that clip. But yeah, here we are. Here we are, folks. Hopefully, I don't know. I apologize. I'm just getting tongue-tied in my mind. It's like when you have to push back, when you have to have your mind sit here and listen to this gobbledygook and listen to how certain people are trying to brainwash you in real time. Like, I'm not being strapped to a chair, Clockwork Orange with the things wide open, being forced to listen and view all of this madness. It happens in real time. And you need to pray for discernment. You need to pray that we can remain objective and look at all sides at all time. Don't get duped by things that happen on the far right. Don't get duped by the things that happen on the far left. But you really have to be discerning and stay on the side of truth. It is so important. We must stay on the side of truth, not allow the distractions to interfere. So I encourage you, folks, this weekend. This is a special weekend. Today is Good Friday. We've got Resurrection Sunday coming up. And this is a time to get together with your families, your friends, and be thankful. Be thankful that you're on the side of truth. Because the deceivers, the people who are out there manipulating us, who want to change our way of life, are working overtime. But I am reminded of Exodus 14:14. I have it posted up here in the office. Look it up, Exodus 14:14. The Lord himself will fight for you. Just stay calm. We'll see you next week. Happy Easter.
This bill, I think, it puts a stake in the ground that says we have a sovereign right to protect what's ours.